You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Today, I spoke with the Agriculture Secretary, Tom Vilsack, about the program, about the lawsuit, and also about his tumultuous relationship with the National Black Farmers Association. Here's our conversation. Secretary Vilsack, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We talked when you were Secretary of Agriculture under President Barack Obama on my old show, so glad to have you back.
Nice to be back with you. Like the T-shirt.
Well, I started this segment called Where's Our Money? A few years ago, I spoke to a group in Cincinnati, and I was a keynote speaker. They had a whole initiative where they were focused on economic inclusion, economic apartheid, building financial freedom for African Americans. And so we created this segment, and this ongoing battle with black farmers has been a part of that. $5 billion was in the American Rescue Plan. And it's not solely for black farmers. So explain to us exactly where that is. I know there's a lawsuit. Has any money been dispersed? Exactly what is going on with that particular $5 billion allocation?
Next week, the Federal Registry will contain a notice of funds availability, which is a technical term indicating that we've received permission from the Office of Management and Budget to begin the process of paying off the debts of socially disadvantaged farmers. These are farmers who have been discriminated against based on ethnicity and race, so defined by a 1990 piece of legislation. What we're going to do now, a letter is going to go out to each farmer who has a direct loan with the United States Department of Agriculture. These are farmers that borrowed money from the USDA, either to purchase a farm, to operate a farm, or to have farm storage facilities built and constructed. These letters will go out and they will essentially say, we have calculated the amount of your outstanding balance, principal, interest, and fees. This is what we calculate the debt to be. We're going to pay that debt off. And if you agree with this amount, we will also ask that you sign a copy of the letter, return it to USDA, and when you do, we will send you a check for 20% of the amount of the outstanding balance of the loan. Now, the reason we're sending that 20%, Roland, is because these farmers, once the debts are paid off, will have a tax responsibility, a liability, and the 20% is designed to help them pay that tax. We're focusing on direct borrowers initially because they represent roughly 85% of the entire borrowers that are affected by this piece of legislation. The other borrowers are called guaranteed borrowers. These are people that went out, borrowed money from a bank, and we at USDA guaranteed the loan. A little more complicated because you got a bank involved. We're asking banks to give us understanding of what the prepayment penalties are so we can include those in the payment to the bank so that the farmer is not responsible for paying off any prepayment penalty. And then we'll obviously get them the 20% as well. One other aspect of this is we're going to provide assistance to farmers so that they understand about this tax circumstance and situation. If they're still farming, it's an opportunity for them to average their income over a 3-year period and lower the tax liability. They may need technical assistance, so we're going to encourage them to talk to their accountant or their tax preparer, or if they don't have one, to provide information about where they might be able to reach out to a community building organization that will assist them with that advice.
How do you respond to a group of white farmers who filed this lawsuit who say, oh, this is unfair, this is reverse discrimination? In fact, Senator Tim Scott, the only black Republican United States senator, went on Face the Nation and criticized this inclusion as if he didn't understand the years of discrimination that black farmers have actually faced, from the federal government.
I would tell the good senator to read this book. It's a wonderful book that basically charts and indicates the history over a 100-year period of the way in which the Department of Agriculture operated to exclude and to prevent or to limit access to programs for black farmers and socially disadvantaged farmers. So for a period of 100 years, things have been skewed against these socially disadvantaged producers. And the result is a gap has existed between those producers and white producers who had the full array of benefits at USDA. What is that gap? Well, white producers were able to grow their farms. They were able to increase the size of their farms, be able to purchase better equipment, put their crop in the ground in a more timely way so their yields were greater. How does that impact and affect things today? Well, it creates a gap between those who had full access and those who didn't. How do I know there's a gap? Well, when we did COVID relief and we made payments to farmers, about 25% of those farmers, Roland, self-identified as either white, black, Hispanic, whatever. Of that 25% universe, white farmers received $5.5 billion of relief. Black farmers received $20 million of relief.
Wow.
It's a significant gap there, right? So this program isn't taking anything away from anyone. It's simply providing a resource to begin a first step in closing that gap. The second step is to take the additional resources from the American Rescue Plan and begin a process of figuring out how better to provide technical assistance to socially disadvantaged producers so they access more programs at USDA, filling that gap in. How do we provide more market access, create market opportunities for these farmers so that they actually have a profitable venture? That closes the gap. And how do we also address the issue of land access so they are able to grow their farms over time? Now, part of that is the heirs property issue. As you know, the title to farms can sometimes be difficult based on the fact that many black farmers didn't have wills. And so over a period of time, their land became fractionally owned by a lot of folks. Well, we're now going to set up a process where we'll allow folks to clear the title, if you will, of that land, which will also make more programs available to folks. So the whole goal here is to try to begin the process over time to fill the gap and to make sure that USDA is a department that's available to all producers, not just a select few.
I would also say what's important to say to Senator Tim Scott and these white farmers who are complaining. Also, you have white nationalist Stephen Miller, who's also whining on Fox News about this, is that these white farmers have benefited billions of dollars from taxpayer money. Black folks also pay taxes. Black folks have been investing in this. And so this whole notion that somehow black farmers are getting a leg up, the numbers don't lie.
No. There's no question about this. And it's important for folks to understand. In the past, there have been specific acts designed to compensate individual farmers for specific acts of discrimination that were directed at them personally. The Pigford cases, for example, the Keepsiegel case for Native Americans, the Hispanic and Garcia and Love cases for Hispanic and women farmers. But in this circumstance, this situation is not about individually compensating individual farmers for discrimination. It's about a reflection that as a group, black farmers, Hispanic farmers, Native American farmers, men and women, both, have been discriminated against over a period of time, and their capacity to access programs at USDA has been limited. And because of that, over a period of time, as a group, they've had fewer opportunities to expand, fewer opportunities to be profitable. And so this is really designed to respond to the cumulative effect of discrimination, as opposed to a specific act of discrimination. And it's real, and I think it's reflected in the COVID money, $5.5 billion versus $20 million. I mean, when it's pretty clear here that the system is designed and set up to benefit those who have large farms and those who have significant yields. Well, who are those people? Most often they are white farmers.
You also, New York Times reported this, that you have these three banking groups, the American Bankers Association, the Independent Community Bankers of America, and the National Rural Lenders Association, complaining that this program is going to cause folks to pay off their debts early, is going to hurt them. Black farmers, we've seen a dramatic decrease in the land of black farmers. We've seen what they had to deal with. And now you got these banking groups whining about them getting relief.
Well, here's what's really interesting about this. Banks, as you know, put into the contract, into the loan, a prepayment penalty. It basically says, look, if you're going to pay us off early, you're going to have to pay us more money. You're going to have to pay us 3% of the loan, or 4%, or 5%. That prepayment penalty is calculated by banks to make up whatever theoretical loss they may incur by having the loan paid off early. And number one, we're going to pay the prepayment penalty, we meaning the USDA. Farmers are not going to pay it. The USDA is going to pay it. So banks are going to get that additional 3% or 5%. Plus they get to loan they obviously get to loan the money back out again, and they may be able to loan it at a higher interest rate, which means they'll probably make more money. And then finally, with any outstanding loan, there's always the risk that the loan doesn't get paid, and there's foreclosure actions and expenses involved in that, and there's actually a loss that often occurs. Well, we're eliminating any risk of foreclosure here because we're paying off all of the loans. No one is going to be foreclosed on. No one's going to eventually have to go into bankruptcy. Those are expenses the banks have to incur. So frankly, I am surprised, and I'm actually, I think it's incredible that some banks have suggested, well, geez, if you pay us off, that may mean that we may not lend money in the future to socially disadvantaged farmers. I mean, seriously? I mean, it's just shocking to me that people would even make that argument, given the prepayment penalty, given the fact that there's no risk of foreclosure or loss, and given the fact that they can lend the money out maybe at a higher interest rate. I mean, it's just incredible.
So there's been a lot of friction between you and the National Black Farmers. I've had John Boyd on my show many times. They were very adamant against you being reappointed as Secretary of Agriculture. How have y'all come together, sat down to mend the relationship, build a relationship, repair a relationship in order to move forward? And what are you also doing to go through the Agriculture Department and deal with the systemic racism? Because look, you control a significant budget, a huge budget, and the USDA goes way beyond just farms. A lot of people have no idea about that. And so, what are you doing to ensure that we're seeing Black economic social justice take place in the USDA? So first, the relationship with the Black Farmers Association, and also your plans to revamp this department and really make it accessible to African Americans.
Well, I have been in touch with John Boyd, as I was during the previous Obama administration, and we actually worked collaboratively together on the Pickford settlement. We were working together to get more money. I went to President Obama and asked to increase the level of Pickford payments from $100 million that Congress had authorized to $1.1 billion. So we were able to secure an additional $1 billion. I have reached out to John. We've texted back and forth. Dwayne Goldman, who is the first ever senior advisor for racial equity in my office, directly reports to me, has also been in touch with Mr. Boyd. And we have made an effort not only to reach out to his association, but to all the associations to get input, first and foremost, about how best to organize and operate this debt forgiveness program. And I think we've taken into consideration the input that we've received from that outreach. We've had a call center. We've put frequently asked questions on the website, and we've also had meetings with these groups to solicit their input. In fact, I just got off a call that the White House organized with a number of these groups to give them a heads up on what's happening in terms of the debt forgiveness program. So there's been significant outreach, and that's going to continue. Now, why is it going to continue? For two reasons. One, the President of the United States, President Biden, has directed every department to do an internal investigation and review of the services, the benefits, the procurement practices, to determine whether or not there indeed exist systemic barriers, and if so, to remove those barriers and to improve the services, the benefits, the procurement, to make sure that we are treating everyone fairly and equitably. So there's an internal review process. We have working groups that have already been set up that are already beginning that work across the board. As you say, we have quite a number of mission areas, so it's going to be a complete review internally. But we're going to go one step further. Congress has instructed us to create an equity commission. This is a commission that has to be set up according to congressional rules. So we are in the process of finalizing the charter for that commission. We will then open it up for nominations for people to serve in that commission. And those folks will be experts who will look at USDA from the outside in. So we have an internal process of review. We also have an external process. And the expectation is both of those processes will identify barriers and problems and be able to make a set of recommendations. And then we'll go through the process of figuring out how best to implement those recommendations. So at the end of the day, we have a USDA that is far more fair and equitable to everyone. That's the goal. The second piece of this is to make sure that our senior executive team, our leadership team, is reflective of the diversity that we represent at USDA, the diversity that we serve at USDA. And so if you take a look at our appointments, Dr. Jill Bernal, first African-American woman to serve as deputy of the Department of Agriculture, former commissioner in Virginia of Agriculture and Consumer Services, someone who has a historic Black college background, so she has connections to that important universe that we want to work with. So that is a representative of many appointments that we're making that reflect a commitment to diversity and inclusion. So between our senior executive staff, our internal review and our external review, and our outreach efforts generally around the debt relief efforts, all of that, I think, reflects a genuine good faith effort to try to get things right at USDA. And then finally, we do have the additional money in the American Rescue Plan that basically directs us to figure out ways in which we can improve access to technical assistance, market access, and land access. And we'll be implementing that effort over the course of the next 6 to 8 months.
Last thing I would say is a part of that might be a little bit selfish, but I've been, as a part of this segment, really also pressing the Biden administration to deal with the issue of equity when it comes to also media advertising. There was a survey done 3 years ago. The federal government spent $5 billion over 5 years and only 1% with the Black-owned media. And so I would also say, as a part of that, you also look at the folks who handle the advertising for the USDA, who has that contract to ensure that they're also doing the exact same thing, and that is working with Black-owned media, because we see the exact same problem. So what Black farmers have been dealing with, we in Black-owned media have been dealing with, not only in major corporate America, but even with the federal government.
We did that in the last time I was secretary, and that's a very good suggestion. And it goes to President Biden's direction for us to take a look at our procurement practices. He is very, very serious about this, and he recognizes the importance of making sure that we're equitable across the board.
All right, Secretary Tom Vilsack, I appreciate it. I look forward to having you back.
Take care.
Folks, back to our Roland unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.